Let's start at the beginning. In the first chapter of the Bible, the author lays the foundation for understanding God's identity and our own identity. There are, I think, about 5 key elements in this chapter. We are going to look at one of them today. But first, I want to encourage you to read Genesis chapter 1. In the description, we have a link to the chapter. Read it in your leisure. For us to explore and study today's, verses, I'm going to read them to you. They're parts of verses 1 to 10, 14, and 16 from Genesis 1. And I'm reading the Net Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was empty and without shape and form. God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky." God said, "Let the waters under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. God saw that it was good. So God made the stars also, and God saw that it was good. Now the Bible opens with God and his creative action. The first chapter of the Bible captures God's awesome, amazing creative power. When we look at all that we have made as human beings, everything we've created, everything we've invented, everything we have discovered from the time the world began, it almost seems ridiculous in comparison to what God created in the very first chapter of Genesis. In Isaiah 45, God tells Isaiah, "I made the earth. My own hands stretched out the skies. I directed the starry constellations in their place." I mean, just imagine that. According to Dr. Vonnegut, during Old Testament times, educated men, or scientists of those days, believed that there were about 3,000 stars in the sky. But today, scientists tell us that there are more stars in the sky than we can easily count. So that means God has created millions and billions and even quintillion number of stars. So God's creativity is also seen here on earth. It's not just the universe up there, right? It's here, down here on earth. So if you look at the little beetle, which is the largest species of anything that we have, if you look at the little beetle, God did not create one standard model of this little invertebrate. He created 8.5 million species of beetles. God's absolutely amazing creative action is seen in us too. We too are so unique. Population Research Bureau tells us that there are about 117. There are about 117 billion of us, human beings, who have lived in this earth so far. Can you imagine? 117 billion of us. Each of us, we have our own unique voice print, our own unique fingerprints, and our iris pattern. Our identity, it's stamped in our DNA. That means we are 117 billion custom designed people. That is God's creativity in action. So if ever you're feeling, why am I here? Or what am I doing here? Remember this, you are one in 117 billion people. You are highly unique, one of a kind person, created by God for a purpose. And you're also someone who reflects God in your creative ability so that you can fulfill that purpose. Our Creator God has given you and me the ability to be not just creative, but to be creators. We can create. So in the very first chapter of Genesis, we read that God made us in his image. So we reflect God. God creates, we create. Every creative act is an imitation of God. So from reading these verses in Genesis chapter 1, here's my suggestion. Imitate God. Use your creativity at work. So the question is how? I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to do that. But really, the bottom line is just be creative at work. So here are the tips. First, God was creative at his work. All that we see in earth and in space, it's just this incredible creative activity of God. It tells us that there is no limit to God's creativity. And the same is true for us. There is no limit to our creativity. So bring this limitless gift that God has given us to work. Workplace might be hard, might be difficult, you might have a very demanding boss. That's okay. Bring this limitless gift that God has given you to your work. Imitate God. Be creative at work. Now, let's look at Genesis 1:1 once again. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, God created. So this signals the start of everything. It indicates a definitive beginning when time began and when God decided to create. So that's the second point. We see this about God. God decided to create the heavens and the earth and everything in them. We are made in God's image, and everything we do, make, or create starts with this internal decision. And just like God decided to create the universe with His power, you too have the power to start creating. So decide within yourself to reflect God at work. In other words, be internally motivated or internally driven to think outside the box or approach a problem with a new attitude or in a new way, and to bring creativity to your everyday work. Here's what I can tell you, whether it's a new idea or project or a fresh approach for a process, creatively thinking something is powerful and meaningful. Now, third, we see over and over again in the chapter that God saw it was good. When God created something, He could look at it and He could say, it is good. The Hebrew word used here is tov. It has the idea of something that's pleasant, excellent, valuable, something that makes us happy, something that brings success, something that's prosperous, and something that is ethically right. So approach creativity at work with that framing. How can I bring value, beauty, growth within the boundaries of ethical excellence? If you want to know more about what brings beauty, answer this question. Will what I do bring joy to my team, to those who are above me, below me, and with me, to my vendors, and to my customers? To know what will bring sustained success, answer this question. What I'm doing, does it bring value to people's life? And is it ethically good? Paul writes about it in his letter to the Ephesians. We are God's masterpiece, created in Jesus Christ to do good works. So here, the Greek word used for good is agathos. It has the same idea as the Hebrew word tov, something that is pleasant, excellent, joyful, kind, and upright. So, create what is good. Now, here's the last one, fourth. Persevere in your creative effort. God did not create the sun and the moon and then just stop. God continued to create the universe until all He wanted to create was complete. Now, as we apply the Bible at work, you will see this theme emerging, this sense of wholeness and completeness. God is not about more and more and more. He's about whole and complete. So, persevere. Keep persevering, especially when you see God's calling in your life. Now, God is God. God does not need a retake. We are not error-proof. So we need to do and redo. But we can reflect God and persevere in creating something beautiful, valuable, excellent, and ethically good that brings joy to us and to others. I can hear some of you say, you don't know my work situation. We have a very tight budget. We are struggling to survive. I have a toxic boss. So what? Be creative within those limitations. Our creative capacity is limitless even when everything around us is limiting us. In fact, limitations can bring out the best creative ideas. You don't believe me? Look at Mick Jagger. How many of us can move like Jagger? Do you know how he perfected those moves? When the Rolling Stones started as a band, they had to play in small clubs. The stage was small. The equipment had to be set. People were crowding all around. Often, it seemed like Jagger was standing on top of a very small dining table to perform. But he wanted people to love their gig. So he began to create moves that would be loved by his audience within this confined space. And then he perfected it. So, if you feel the odds are against you and you're wondering where to begin by using your creative capacity. Begin by asking God. God gave you the capacity to be creative. Ask God to build it. He will show you how you can build your creative capacity. What is ahead of you may not be easy, but keep going forward, hand in hand with God. Trust God. He made you creative. He will give you the capacity to be creative. And the result you will see is work that is meaningful and enriching to you, your life, and to others around you. It'll give you great satisfaction and great joy when you approach work with creative capacity, with your creative capacity, and with your creative power. Well, I've come to an end of this release. This was our first episode in beginning our journey Bible at work. If you liked what you learned, then do follow us in this channel. We'll be dropping videos often. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X, or Twitter. You have the links for all of that below. I also want to invite you to subscribe to our weekly Bible at Work email. This is a paid subscription. It's a $5 paid subscription, but this is what helps us, me and our whole team, to bring consistent, systematic teaching from Genesis to Revelation to see how you can live the Bible at work. Me and my whole team, we wish you the best work life and see you in the next episode.